Roeddet ti'n medru teimlo fod yna rhywbeth mwy. A'r cyfan ar y munud oedd cael ei gyffwrdd. Rydw i'n falch dy fod wedi dod mor bell. Rydw i'n falch ohono ti. Derbyn y prawf ola yma, ac fe fyddwn yn wir gyda'n gilydd.
How will I know what to do?
Wyt ti wastad wedi gwybod?
And that was Morfydd Clark reciting a bunch of crazy nonsense in Welsh as in her portrayal as the god that speaks to Maud in the movie Saint Maud, which we will be reviewing today on this, the current episode of Loathsome Things, a horror movie podcast, with your two favorite horror movie podcast hosts, John and Josh. John, how is't thou?
I'm doing pretty good, and well.
Yeah?
I don't know. I'm doing all right, I guess.
Good and plenty?
Yeah, I'm doing good and plenty. And how about yourself, sir?
I have a cold. I can't really breathe through my nose, so if I sound funny, that's my excuse. John, what's your excuse?
I'm an idiot.
Did you switch out microphones? You sound very different today.
I didn't, actually. I'm using the same one. I'm not sure why.
That's okay. It still sounds good. No,
better?
Great.
Oh.
Amazing.
Oh.
Beautiful.
Oh. I'm having a Maud-like godgasm.
Oh, yeah. Let's come on the stairs.
Oh, Lord, I feel you in me.
Well, John, let's feel God inside of us together on a couch after working out. So for those of you not familiar, this is Rose Glass's first feature-length film. Rose Glass, not any sort of a saying or anything like that. Definitely just a real and normal name.
Yep.
This is her first full-length film. She was previously a prolific short film director in the years leading up to this. I would highly recommend you seek out her films Moths, Stormhouse, and Room 55. If you watch those three, you'll be like, oh, I see how she took elements of all that and created like Saint Maud with, you know, a healthy dose of like brand new stuff. But you're going to see the dingy, outdated wallpapers. You're going to see like, oh, what is this? Appliances from the 1950s? Neat. And also you're going to see a lot of weird personal religious iconography being created as part of the thing. It's very strange. Also a lot of strange sexual tension. Like Rose Glass has her own filmmaking language, and it is jelly goodness.
I haven't seen any of her short films. I'm definitely going to have to watch them. It sounds like she kind of took elements from all of them and modified it. Oh shit, I just shit myself.
Her next film is called Love Lies Bleeding. It is currently in pre-production, and it will star Kristen Stewart, who is trying to become a horror movie darling for all of us that weren't interested in her whenever she liked vampires and werewolves.
That's correct.
The description for that movie is someone is in a romance fueled by ego, desire, and the American dream. So
okay, that's yeah,
being directed by directed and written by a British woman.
So they know us. They've got it.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think we pretty much spew enough about the American dream that people from elsewhere can be like, yeah, I got it.
Yeah, our culture is not a monoculture by any means.
No. And if any of you out there can help me find two of her short films, one is called The Silken Strand, and the other is called Bath Time. I have not been able to view those. Those are the only two that are missing. She has also directed several commercials and music videos. So she really likes the short little things, but now she's going feature length, and it is glorious.
It is glorious. Her cinematic sense is great. She's got a wonderful eye, and she really knows how to trim down a story. I mean, for a first feature, it's what, 80 something minutes long. There's really not any wasted time in it. It gets right to the point. The story is told very clearly. What she doesn't want, explicit is not explicit, and what she does want explicit is explicit. And it's a very I don't know, how would you say, it's like a very I'm sure I can't think of the word, but it's very accomplished for a first time director for a feature
Very,
film anyway.
Yeah, very polished. Like
Yeah.
it is an auspicious beginning to what I assume will be a fantastic and not disappointing career.
Yeah, as long as she keeps true to her own voice, and I think she's got a lot of good stuff in her. This was a movie that you had brought originally on as we had kind of discussed early on doing this as the first movie, and I think that eventually, I think your decision was that you kind of wanted to hold off because it was a story that you obviously liked so much that I think you were afraid we might fuck it up as our first episode. Not give it the coverage that we really kind of felt that we could,
Yeah, absolutely. There's also to listeners that don't know this, I have a personal history of mental unhealth, and it related to religion in very specific ways that makes me identify with this movie, and perhaps I watched this movie through rose-colored glasses.
Oh man, we're on fire today.
Oh, it's so good. But yeah, so like I identified with a lot of the things that happened in this movie. It fired off a whole bunch of brain juices inside my noggin, and I just fucking love it. So yeah, I wanted to be able to like step back from it. Like for an example, the first time I watched this movie, I then went ahead and watched it 2 more times in a row, and it was like all before noon.
Yeah, it's not very long, but it definitely rewards repeated viewing. I mean, there's a lot there to take in. It's not hard to follow, but it's still some pretty serious subject matter.
Yeah, and specifically the way the movie ends is so like mind blowing that you're like, oh well, obviously I need to watch this again because I was not prepared for that. And watching it again, you're like, okay, I was prepared for that, but it's still goddamn effective. Oh man.
It's like the whole movie is dog-eared by these extremely bold credits, which really kind of create this weird feel for the movie, because the movie's so atmospheric and moody and glum kind of, and then the credits are so bold. It's like these huge letters like, oh, okay, Jesus, all right.
Well, I guess so.
I'm ready. Let's do this. And then it really, I mean, if you see the trailer, you could, you kind of have an idea for what you're in for, but, there's some real, like, true horror imagery in the film, but it really doesn't play as much as a straight horror film, although it is one.
Yes.
It covers a lot of other ground as well, and really well.
Yeah, I will say among the this is an A24 production. Mm-hmm. Among the A24 trailers, this one is the least playing keep away. Like the trailer for this movie is like, oh yeah, this is what you're in for. Get ready. Whereas most A24 trailers is there an empty lawn with an apple?
What could it mean?
Is this lady about to walk through a dark underpass?
What is that, a synthesizer I hear?
Bwop!
Yes.
Yes. So more power to Rose Glass. This was amazing. And more power to the star Morfydd Clark, who plays Maud and also plays the voice of God, which you heard just before the two of us started knuckleheading around. Her next big upcoming role is going to be as Galadriel in the Amazon Lord of the Rings something or other.
Wow.
So, yeah, picking up in Kate Blanchett's shoes. That's
Nice.
a bold move,
Yeah.
and I think she's probably going to nail it.
Yeah, I think she'll be fine.
Yeah, you might recognize her from her role in, as I believe, Georgiana in Pride and Prejudice and Zombies.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah, it was not worth seeing. I did.
Excrement.
Speaking of Pride and Prejudice, Jennifer Ahle is in this movie.
That's right, Jennifer.
Ahle? I don't know how to pronounce most of the names, but it's okay. She is perhaps most famous for her starring role in the 1995 Pride and Prejudice miniseries that she starred in with Fallen Kurth.
Fallen Kurth.
Yes, that guy.
Let the curses fall upon thee.
And there are also solid contributions from a pair of Lilies, Lily Frazier and Lily Knight. Lily Frazier plays Carol, and Lily Knight plays Joy. John, along with in the notes, you'll see that I put her name in as Joyce several times. Her name is in fact Joy. It's just because they're so British or whatever, it just sounds like Joyce.
Really? Because I put Joyce too.
Yeah. Yeah, because it
okay.
sounds like Joyce.
Oh, hello, Joy.
Yeah. Oh, hello, Joy.
That's spelled Joy. Yes.
Yes. Also, fun one. I haven't seen this in a little bit, but the cockroach's name is Nancy.
Oh, how delightful.
It is delightful. Oh. And John, I wanted to ask, are you familiar with the phrase elevated horror?
Not really.
Okay. Well,
moving on. No.
Maybe we'll talk about it at the end, because
okay.
I want to address the phrase elevated horror because it is a phrase that is widely discussed amongst idiots on the internet like us. And so I figured we should take a stab at it as well.
Yeah, I'm game for that.
All right. And anything else, John? Do we need to tell the people? Do you want to say to the people? Do we want to ask the people before we begin summarizing and spoilerizing this movie?
I can't think of anything that at the moment, no.
Very good. All right. So turn this off if you don't want spoilers, and then turn it back on as soon as you do. Now you want spoilers, and here we go. The movie opens in a horrible hospital room. I don't know what's going on with the lights, but it sucks in there. Also, everything's covered in blood. Also, as part of things that are covered in blood, we meet Maud, who is covered in blood. She is obviously in a state of emotional distress. She is slumped down in the corner, and across the room from her, on a hospital bed, is a bloody, crushed body or something. And all of a sudden, we see a enormous, horrific cockroach crawling across the ceiling towards her, and she looks up at it, and opening sequence over.
That's right. Giant title transition.
Yep. And then it moves into, we see red fluid bubbling grotesquely, and then we find out that that is a close-up on tomato soup being cooked. Neat.
A delightful tomato soup.
Yep.
Perhaps a bisque.
Perhaps a bisque. Yeah, you never know. It might not be Campbell's. It might not just be Campbell's tomato soup. It could be some sort of British variation.
Yeah, exactly.
We get so this is a little bit of keep away. Like, we saw that opening sequence, but we weren't given any indication of what it meant. We get a feeling of dread and an implication that something went terribly, terribly wrong.
Right.
Also, there's a bug.
Yes, a large bug that just happens to be named Nancy.
Yeah, Nancy the bug. What else could she possibly be? After the tomato soup, we're treated to the fact that that Maud lives in just the worst apartment I've ever actually seen.
Pretty much squalor, yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is. I think calling it a studio is too much of a stretch, because it's basically a cell. It's a cell that you pay for.
Yeah, it's just a block of ugliness.
Yeah, yeah. There's about enough room for a chest of drawers, a bed, a tiny kitchenette, and a window, and that's it. And so that's where she lives. You can hear people arguing through the walls, or perhaps from the street. It's noisy. It's claustrophobic. It's unpleasant. And Maud seems to be doing just fine. We are then treated to her. She prays to God, and we're getting this as a voiceover to her daily activities. She prays to God like a video blog, basically, like not just doing like, I pray for this and I pray for that, but like a constant running conversation about things in her day, like how this little thing is going. Here's an update on this matter, things like that. But then also like the big ticket items, like, full of your love, and what do you have in store for me, and I hope that you've saved me for something special, stuff like that. Real neat. And we find out that she's going to her new job. She's going to be doing in-home health care for terminally ill people. Great. Woo.
What could go wrong?
What could possibly be horrific about being the in-home healthcare nurse for someone that is dying of like stage 11 cancer?
That's right.
So that's what she's doing. And then, like, we're treated to the A24 soundtrack. This movie really, really blows on the old foghorn lots of times. It's pretty good. I actually liked it in this movie. Sometimes once you know that it's A24 and you suspect that sound is coming at you, you're like, nah, maybe it's a little weird, but it worked well here.
It does.
So she makes it all the way to it. We find out that it's a lady. She's got like spine cancer.
Yeah, lymphoma of the spinal cord. I think stage 4.
Yeah, fuck that. That's horrible.
Yeah, that doesn't sound good.
Yeah, and we find out that this lady is a dancer, or a former dancer. Like, she's like a super high class celebrity in the upper echelons of niceness, and like a teacher. She wrote books like the body is my palette, or something like that. And
American.
Yeah, she's American, but she's for some reason living on the shitty British coast. Which, it's
dilapidated estate, which is actually pretty cool.
It's fucking awesome, and apparently it smelled bad in there. They actually like, it's not a set; it's an actual house, and like part of what they shot in was actually an old wet basement that smelled terrible. They were always worried that it was going to be the cause of their death while they were shooting in there.
Great.
Yeah. So she makes it to the house. She trades off with the previous nurse that, like, I guess is finishing her. I don't know what their shifts are, like a month at a time. I don't know. But she was like, hey, all right, here's this. Here, your room's over there. This is how this works. She's like, what's she like? Her name is Amanda. This is Jennifer Echley's Amanda. And she was like, what's she like? And the lady says, a bit of a cunt, and then leaves.
Bit of a cunt.
Yeah. It's like, oh, good. Yeah, this is gonna be great.
Yeah.
So we get some of their day to day. It's all very business like, make her some food, help her with her medicine, help her take a bath, all this stuff. Then some random dude comes over, and this is after Maud has started like digging through her things. Some random fancy dude came over with some alcohol, and basically Maud is kicked out of the house for the night so that the dude and Amanda can party. And so she goes out, and it's like Coney Island style boardwalk nonsense, real rundown and not good looking. This is shot in Scarborough, as in, are you going to Scarborough Fair, Scarborough? That one.
As in, why in God's name would you go to Scarborough?
Yes. And apparently Rose Glass was specifically looking, we're like, yeah, we want something that looks like it could be busy, but isn't busy. Like we want it to look like it's kind of dying. So how about Scarborough?
Yes, the British idea of a resort town is very strange because everything looks so dilapidated, and it's like Brighton, same deal. It's a summer destination, and then the rest of the year it's just a freezing, rainy nightmare with lots of neon and just really down and out.
Yeah. A very small Ferris wheel that no one goes on for 10 months out of the year.
It's like a one-person Ferris wheel.
Yeah, it's basically like the summer festival crew that comes into town, but it just stays there and no one likes it.
It's an entire city inhabited by carnies.
Yeah. What a wonderful place. So she's out, she's walking around, praying some more to God about stuff, being like, man, this sucks. And she's even like, if they would have told me, I would have just stayed in my room and been quiet. That would have sucked less. But while she's doing stuff, she runs into a homeless gentleman that's asking for money. People are saying their abuse to the man as they go by. And she ends up giving him, I don't know, a shilling. I don't know what British money is.
A farthing.
Yeah. And she says to him, may God never waste your pain. And then he's like, what the fuck did you say? And she was like, it seems like he's like going to challenge her and get weird at her. But then she's just like, God bless. And he says, oh, God bless you too. And then he's like, it's a, kind of cold outside and stuff. And she just like gets the fuck out of there.
Yeah, that's right. You got your farthing, buddy.
And she heads back early because Amanda can't hold her drink like she used to and is like flopping around drunk and doing the pukes. And the dude is not cool with it. He calls her some bad names, and Maud's like, hey, perhaps you should leave, and I'll take care of this dying person, which is exactly what then happens.
That's right. Well, maybe you should just leave so I can take care of this vomit fountain.
Yeah, just really, really cleaning the puke out of the carpet. Although I will say part of it was that Amanda literally waited until the instant that the guy had closed the door to puke. Like she'd just been like maintaining composure the whole time as best she could. So ripped up drunk, but not going to puke until he's out of earshot.
And then she pretty much just let it go.
Man, yeah, right onto the $10,000 rug.
Right, a $10,000 Persian rug, and Maud is like, we see Maud scrubbing the vomit out of the rug very dutifully, and then she's giving Amanda a bath and scrubbing her back, and they're having their little night chat. She's tucking Amanda into bed, and then the subject of Maud's faith and her religion comes up, and they talk about that a little bit. They talk about Amanda and kind of they talk about death and Amanda's fear of death. Her she wonders like what that final moment is going to be like, and it's like I don't know why she's wondering so much because it's pretty much around the fucking corner. So
well, you don't got much else to look forward to.
yeah, I guess that's true.
Yeah.
Just getting drunk and barfing on the carpet. And they talk about why, what is Maud doing in this particular town, and so on and so forth. So we get a little bit of kind of a little bit about Maud's story, but she doesn't give too much away. And then she talks about how she believes that God speaks to her, that she basically gets this weird like God is in me. I feel when he communicates with me, I feel him inside of me, and it's this weird orgasmic God vibe that she's giving off. And obviously you're starting to get the impression that Ahmad might be off just a bit,
just a tad off the rails.
Her interpretation of her faith is a little intense, and kind of part of the fun of the movie is that the way it's portrayed. It's a movie. You don't know these people. I mean, maybe these things are happening to her. I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility in a film, and the film plays with that idea. But I think you kind of form your own opinions by the end of the movie. But anyways, but going back to where we are, so she's so they're having this discussion, and she's giving off this weird vibe, and Amanda talks about her fear of like the final moment in life, and then she's kind of like playing with Maud's cross and all that. So I guess that's what starts it. But anyways, she calls Maud my little savior, which sounds pretty patronizing, but it's hard to tell at this point.
Yeah. Well, she also she said that that Maud's much prettier than the last one.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. You're much prettier than the other girl, the last girl or whatever. So yeah, she calls her little savior, and Maud. We see as she's walking back into the hallway, we see the light kind of fade. This is kind of like the signal that Maud's about to have a moment, a religious moment, or epiphany, or whatever. So she ends up. She's on her way up the stairs back to her chamber or whatever, and then she has this like God inside of her stair jizz moment where she completely like has this very intense and pretty disturbing, overly sexualized moment where she feels God is inside of her. Make of that what you will. So at this point she's either actually experiencing some sort of strange interaction directly with God, or she's completely out of her fucking skull.
Yeah, it's really good too, that scene with her on the stairs whenever she's basically like orgasming her way up the stairs. There's this like final moment where like the camera is like a little bit focusing on her face where she's like going full O face, but then it just like stretches a little bit further than it's okay for the human face to stretch, and then cuts away. It's fucking amazing.
It's a great shot because it just takes you right out of the realm of possibility.
You're like, oh.
Everything else she did, you're like, okay, well, she could just be imagining all this, whatever. She believes it, but that's, but then when her face stretches to an impossible degree, just for a fraction of a second, and then you're left kind of hanging like, yeah, I just saw that. That was not normal. I guess I have to try to adapt my interpretation of what's happening here.
Yeah. So, my expectations just went back to question mark.
Usually we don't think of people, experiencing or having the experience of God in a way of being portrayed as sheer terror, essentially. But because her face goes from like it's like ecstasy to the point of going beyond ecstasy into something that you can't even really explain. Which is being presented and perceived as you're watching it as fucking terrifying. So she's back in her room. She's got a towel on the ground. She's putting dried pieces of corn so that when she kneels down, she's self-flagellation. She's experiencing this intensity of pain to kind of focus, I'm assuming, her prayer, and also to tying in this ecstatic sensation with the experience of pain, which is kind of a common way that people intensely express their faith or explore their faith, I guess you could say.
Yeah, it's very like hints of Opus Dei, but she is very not like that organized, which we'll get to.
Right. She's technically converted to Catholicism, which we learn throughout the story. But obviously, her version of Catholicism is a very personal one. I mean, she's such a lonely person that she doesn't really have she doesn't have close bonds with anybody, and so for her to have any kind of a relationship with what she thinks of as God is going to be, it's personal for everybody, but for her it's very idiosyncratic, because she's obviously got, to say the least, quirks.
Yeah.
So her interpretation of this, with very little input from anybody else or any other source, I should say, is it goes a little awry.
Yeah. They mentioned it earlier whenever when Amanda was like playing with her cross and her little saint icon. She was like, "Oh, who's your saint?" And she was like, "Mary Magdalene." Amanda's like, "I didn't realize that they made medals for Mary Magdalene," and apparently she had to like order hers special off of Etsy.
I got it on Etsy, where you can buy anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, so then we see this kind of, we see a few of these kind of montage-y type, various clips of things going on, and then you'll have some narration. So it's like Maud, and she's helping Amanda stretch her muscles as she's laying on the floor, getting her medicine ready, snooping on her as she's going about her day. We hear this narrated God business going on over that. Then we see her spraying on herself and sniffing Amanda's perfume, just kind of, nibbing through her stuff just to kind of try to get an impression for, I mean, she obviously finds this woman interesting and probably sees her as sophisticated in a way that maybe makes her a little bit jealous, but she's also scared by her. She's intimidated by her. So you see this kind of fascination where she's, looking at her stuff, smelling her stuff, and then she's throwing out all her booze bottles, she's washing the dishes, and then she has this dishwashing godgasm.
Another one.
Another one. Then there's a knock at the door. She's interrupted by a knock at the door, and it's a young lady named Carol, who is she's an African American lady, I guess, and she's got she kind of has like the new wavy goth kind of. She's real young, kind of like a semi-gothy, new wavy kind of look to her, like a hipster kind of type. The kind of person that, Amanda, probably meets and knows in the circles she runs in or ran in. So anyways, Carol's off in, hanging out with Amanda, and Maud's in a room, and she's listening to Amanda and Carol like they're having a good time giggling, like, well, like having fun and, whatever. And the next morning, Carol leaves, and there's this moment where she kind of pauses at Maud's open door and kind of side eyes in, it's like, and then she leaves, and it's really weird. Maud is, of course, aware of all this, and then Amanda calls Maud in, and they end up praying together, which of course Maud is leading, but it's this weird, Maud is having another one of her orgasmic cummy prayer things, and Amanda is going through the same motions with her, like moaning and eyes rolled back, head tilted, mouth open. Kind of, you see her hand kind of slowly reach over to hold Maud's hand on the couch, and they're having this weird. It's like they're having a very intimate moment that is very almost like it's personal for each of them, but they're sharing it together. They're not really having an intimate moment with each other. They're having an intimate moment in front of each other at the same time or something. I mean,
Yeah.
which it just seems like, I mean, I remember thinking at the time, the first time I saw it, I was like, there's no fucking way Amanda is experiencing, like, either Maud is imagining this, or Amanda is fucking with her, which we get the answer for this later. But so then we see more, scenes of like medication, and she's Maud is laying in her bed in her undies, and then we hear old music, and it's just this bunch of crap, and then turns out Maud gets this delightful gift from Amanda. It's this William Blake book with a bunch of photographs of Blake's art and a bunch of his poetry, and of course, if you're not familiar, Blake is somebody who spiritualism and religion was very much a part of the theme of his work, and
fucking amazing gift.
His art is amazing. His poetry is really good too, but
yes.
it can be very scary, even when I'm not even sure it's necessarily meant to be, but it's very like extremely colorful. Definitely check out his work, because it has a contemporary look to it, but it's been a few years since William Blake's around.
It's great. All of his stuff is now it's copyright free, so you can like use William Blake shit on all your album covers. William Blake is a total fucking badass. Like, as soon as I saw it, like, you see it earlier in the movie, his book is right next to Amanda's books on the bookshelf, and like Maud even like touches it and then just looks at Amanda's books, and then she's getting it as a gift, and it's just like, oh yeah, here we fucking go, let's do it. It's like, that is the perfect book to give to a crazy religious person. Like,
exactly, it really is. To Maud from Amanda. She's even drawn like fucking angel wings around her name, and it's and then the way that Maud is looking through the book, it's like she's looking at porn. She's just like, each picture just ooh. She's really into it. In the meantime, Carol just struts in wearing a kimono because, well, kimono, and then Carol like whips a bottle of champagne out of the refrigerator, does the jizz pop with the champagne bottle, gets champagne all over her kimono, so she has to take that off. Now she's, like down to like her nightie or negligee or whatever. And we hear Amanda, Carol, come back. And then you get a subtitle, Avant Funk music playing. I was like, make a note of that.
Soundtrack for more of this.
I was like, I didn't even know there was such a thing as avant funk, but apparently there is.
Sounds amazing.
Oh man, I was like, but so specific. So Maud's eavesdropping on them as they're having their, they're having some sort of, they obviously have some sort of lesbian affair going on. So they're kind of like, they're rolling around on the floor and just, having a good time. So, yeah, good for them. Not good for Maud.
Not so great for Maud. Maud is, for someone that spends a long time leering at this happening through a crack in the door, she is, quote unquote, not into it.
Yeah, it's funny because Rose does not really explore necessarily her feelings too much because she doesn't really need to. I mean, obviously, this girl she's drawn into the human experience, whatever it might be. So if it's two women having a sexual moment together, she finds it interesting at the very least, if not appealing. But there's obviously this pious side of her, which, her perception of her faith does not allow her to admit that she likes these things. So it's like this, she's got this struggle going on every minute of every day that she is not handling well at all.
No, she's not doing a great job. So just to give some rose glass movie making context, her first short film, Moths, is about a man and a woman that are actively spying on each other. They're in neighboring apartments and they are spying on each other through a mutual hole in the wall. So, like, they each have a painting over the hole. So one will take the painting down and they'll be like dancing sexually. Well, not really sexually, but just like it. They're both like titillating each other. We never see them in the same room though. So it's this. There's a sexual tension built around mutual voyeurism and distance. And then in Stormhouse, it's two people going to absurd lengths in order to conceive a baby, including like going so far as to bury their head in the dirt and wait for things to grow around their head. It's awesome. Definitely watch Stormhouse. And then Room 55 is a fancy 1950s lady driving home from somewhere, and she has a paper bag full of groceries to cook dinner for her husband, but she's not going to make it home tonight, so she stops at a hotel, and it turns out that that hotel is the like lesbian bondage hotel, and then the whole rest of it is like some of that going on.
Fascinating.
Yes. And so all of this, like, there's definitely sexual tension between Maud and Amanda, but that's not how Maud is reflecting on what's going on. We're seeing it happen, and we're like, Amanda's definitely seeing it happen. She's like, ooh, the good nurse is here, and all I have to do is pretend to be like interested in her god business. And part of Maud's interest in Amanda, like part of that whole My Little Savior thing, that moment when she had that orgasmic going up the stairs, and then the other one in the kitchen, it's all her thinking, like she's praying to God about the fact that obviously God has put Amanda in her path so that she can save Amanda. Like, she is achieving a higher purpose. So like now everything that she's doing is working towards that higher purpose of saving Amanda's soul before her demise. And she is just blissing out on it. Then Carol shows up and is being a sexy sex haver around Amanda. And Maud's not really down for that business. So after peeking through on them the night before, the next morning as Carol is leaving, we even see that perhaps Carol gets some money from Amanda. So there's a implication that perhaps Carol is a sex worker and not just purely a chum buddy. So Maud pulls Carol aside before Carol leaves and asks Carol to not hang out with Amanda anymore. So it's all very like, you know, she's going through a personal time and you don't really care about her the way that she needs someone to care about her. She needs to be focusing on important things and not getting, quote, worked up over some young girl. And so after an initial like Carol being like, nah, you're being weird, she's like, fine, whatever you say, Maud. And then Maud is like, oh, cool. And then, you know, Carol leaves and she thinks that everything's going to be great.
Yeah, she's a little naive when it comes to the reality of interpersonal relationships.
Yeah, not great at interacting with her fellow humans.
She does not know how to read a room.
Yeah. And part of that, we got that earlier. We skipped over it. Part of whenever she went out on her little like night into town, there's this weird scene where she's in this diner.
Mm-hmm.
And like she's surrounded. It's the worst diner, and instead of windows, they have inward-facing mirrors to make the inside of the diner look huger. But it just means that you can see everyone 3 times.
It's a diner that has somehow managed to look damp and dusty at the same time.
Yes, and super crowded. It's like they managed to fit as many circular tables into a small space as possible, and like it's just one person at every table. There's a guy like sitting behind Maud that we see shove his eyeball into his fake eye into his eye socket there at the table, surrounded by people. It's just great. um, um, but and so now like Maud is still like in the bliss of doing a good job. She goes out, I think, to get groceries or something, and she runs into Joy, aka Joyce, if you're just listening and not reading the credits. And Joy calls her Katie instead of Maud.
That's right.
Maud obviously knows her, and they strike it up. Apparently, they both used to be nurses at the same hospital, and she's wondering how Maud is doing. And she finds out that Maud is still working as a nurse, and she's surprised and a little bit of alarmed by that. She even asks, like, "Do they know what happened before?" And Maud's like, "Look, I've really got to go." But Joy gives her cell phone number. Anytime you need to talk, you can call me. And we get a sense that this lady not like full blown cares for Maud, but like has a sense of like social duty to like check in on the well being of this person, because oftentimes nurses are those kinds of people.
She's a caregiver, and she's showing that.
So Maud gets back. Things then deteriorate. Carol calls Amanda, and Maud overhears their conversation. She doesn't know for certain, but it really, really sounds like what happened is that Carol told Amanda all of the things that Maud said to her, like asking her not to hang out with her. And then all of a sudden it's like 5 o'clock and she says that she's ready for bed. And now Maud is getting the silent treatment from Amanda, and all of the good vibes that she was enjoying for that little section of the movie, they're now like gone. And this fucking iron stove nonsense that she's been eyeballing the whole time.
Oh wait, before that, I have to add this. This is a little something that I caught that I'm so proud of myself for catching, because I don't usually notice this shit. But so if you remember, she gives Amanda a bath at her nightly bath, and of course there's nothing really said between the two because Amanda's pissed off at her, and Maud is feeling kind of like she's in trouble. So anyway, she's giving her a bath, and then they show the water going down the drain counterclockwise.
Yeah, I didn't catch that it was counterclockwise. So Australia,
they're in the northern hemisphere. So that's a little is what we're seeing here is not what might actually be happening. Kind of, it's like just a little subtle message that everything is not kosher. Like, now that you've seen that, because that has nothing to do with Maud. It doesn't. It's just a little shot of the water going down the drain backwards. It's like, wait a minute, everything's fucked up here. We're in bizarro world.
And it's part of the foreshadowing, because what we're seeing is Maud actively developing a personal religious mythology, and
I guess that's
yeah. She's interpreting everything around her. All of the mundane things around her are taking on massive personal spiritual significance. So that was one we.
It's crazy because this gets right to the heart of the religious experience. I mean, anytime somebody starts carping about, oh, I went home last night and I was, eating Mike Swanson's TV dinner, and then Jesus just started speaking to me, everybody's going to be like, oh, well, that's great. That's wow. Guy's fucking nuts, or I don't know what he was. I don't know if he was drunk or what the hell he was thinking. But at the same time, well, I mean, what who's to say those things don't actually happen? I mean, you can believe in this stuff or not believe in this stuff, but it's either real or it isn't. And if maybe she is experiencing this stuff, maybe it's not just in her head. We don't know. It's really played well, because that's not a unique idea in a movie. It's been done a million times. We've talked about movies where it's been done, but it's done really well here. It doesn't feel cheap to me. It doesn't, and it's not preachy in a religious way or preachy in an anti-religious way. It doesn't have any specific message about any of that stuff. It's really, really just focused on Maud and her, who she is inside and out, really.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic because I mean, she's who we're sympathizing with. We're experiencing the story through Maud's perception, and it's a really excellent take on all of that. Like you said, it's not coming at it from a judgmental way. It leaves us wondering, from the perspective of a viewer, but like, I don't know, it's really good. And so that drain, that reverse drain, is foreshadowing. Even the stairs was foreshadowed. Like, there's a moment whenever she first enters in and she looks at that staircase, and there's like this little moment of like her recognizing its potential significance, and then she has it later on. So there's the swirl. The same thing with the stove. She starts paying attention to sources of heat. There's Amanda's cigarette lighter.
That's true.
Like, the beginning sequence is just basically a montage of Amanda lighting cigarettes while Maud is taking care of her. Just like, get out a bath, light a cigarette, go in the other room, light a cigarette, finish your meal, light a cigarette. Really made me want a cigarette, but I have not yet.
There's even scenes of Maud with a Maud flicking the lighter, like just impotently flicking the lighter over and over again as a nervous habit.
Yeah, it looks like maybe she stole Amanda's lighter, because it's not just a Bic. It's not even a Zippo. It is like some fancy throwback old school cigarette lighter, like the kind where you don't have a pack of cigarettes, you have a metal cigarette case with them like lined up, and that little flap of metal that holds them all down.
It's so funny you say that, because I have, of course, returned to smoking, but I roll my own because it's cheaper and it makes me smoke less. But when I bring cigarettes to work, I bring them in this.
Nice.
A metal case with a flippy lid.
Nice. That's fucking awesome. That's so classy. See, that's one of the things that I miss about smoking, is I miss the ritual, and I miss like the accoutrement. Like, I actually bought a fancy old school cigarette case, and I tried doing it that way, but I realized I was just taking cigarettes out of my pack of cigarettes, putting them in a cigarette case, and then not having enough cigarettes to get through the day.
You're probably talking about that cool flat one with the little thing that holds. Yeah, those are really cool. I thought about getting one, but I was like, I can't. If I do that, I'm going to have to get like a fucking vest with a fucking watch, and I can't.
Yes, yeah. You're gonna have to like switch to cravats and.
I have to use a fucking monocle. It's a whole thing.
Yeah. So Maud's got all of this personal iconography that she's building over the course of the movie, and part of it is the sources of heat, especially this crazy stove thing. I don't know. But anyway, so because she's upset, we've also seen up to this point that she obviously cuts herself. There are cuts all over, I think it's her stomach.
Mm.
And she's not just doing self-harm as part of a prayer penance. There's also just like whateverness going on. So she burns herself on the stove, like right on the wrist, and instantly not happy about it, because apparently it leaves a possibly third-degree burn. Like, her wrist is fucked. It is not good.
Yeah, it's gross.
Yeah, and it gets grosser over the course of the movie. So that happens, and then now it is time for Amanda's birthday party, and everyone is going to be there, including like one or two men, which we don't really get very many of those, especially up to this point in the movie. This is what's the fucking Bechdel test? This movie passes the Bechdel test in flying colors. Most of the time, no one is talking about men.
Yeah, which is wonderful.
Unless they are men. Yes.
Yeah. It's not about men. Men don't really matter a whole lot in this movie. It's great.
Yeah. There's a brief sequence of male ejaculation later on in the movie, but other than that, it's very about women. Not about women, but the story revolves around women in this story. It's different from most of what you get in horror movies.
It's about women told by a woman, written and conceived by a woman, and it's but at the same time, it's not. Yeah, it's not a feminist movie necessarily. It's just a movie that focuses on a female character that doesn't rely on men to like get her to walk across the street, or she can't function unless she calls a guy every 5 minutes, or like every other movie you've ever seen where women have no agency and can barely function unless there's a man around.
Yeah. It's really interesting. It shouldn't be extraordinary that this movie is this way.
I know,
but it totally is. Like especially within our genre, there aren't really many movies where it's not about men. So
that's true.
Good job.
Yeah, and which reminds me of like, I keep digressing, but it reminds me of we talked about having bring more diversity into the creators that we talk about, but like this point of view that she gives is like, what was I going to say about it? It's just kind of it's just refreshing to see a movie where like what women tend to see as frightening oftentimes are the kinds of things that men don't even think about. Like, if I go to the pool by myself, is some creep gonna we don't care about that kind of stuff. We care, but I mean, we don't think about it because it doesn't happen to us. Certainly doesn't happen to me because I'm a fat old white guy. But but what does a woman find to be scary or horrifying? And it's really interesting to see that when it's not tempered by like what they're afraid some guy is going to be able to tolerate from them or something. I mean, none of that. That's just not part of this, which is cool.
Yeah. There was a recent commercial where the company got in trouble because it was like, it's like for Fitbit. I don't think it was Fitbit, the brand, but it was something like that. And it was a woman that was going jogging in the middle of the night, and she was like jogging down back alleyways, and women all over the internet were like, she would not be doing that because that's like, we're all scared.
Women do not go jogging in back alleyways.
Yeah, it's just there. But I don't know. Part of what I like about this, and some people would probably criticize it for it, is it's a story. Like all of the main characters are women. It's not a story about men, but it's also not a story about how it's about women. Like that's not like called out as the purpose or theme of it. It's just part of the dressing of the movie, and I find that fantastic. Like it does a great job. It's not trying to be a female movie. It's just a movie starring women.
Yeah, because when you try to make a female movie, you're introducing that duality. Like, it's a female movie as opposed to all the male movies. This is not a female movie opposed to male movies. It's just a movie with females from a female point of view. It's not about dudes. That's the whole point. It's like, well, you could, guys can try and figure out some way to work themselves into it, but in this one, it just doesn't work that way because it has nothing to do with the story, which is cool.
Yeah. And when dudes are introduced to this movie, it's always uncomfortable.
They're all douchebags.
It's terrible.
Not that there's a lot of great folks in this movie, but yeah.
No one's really a saint. So Amanda is having a birthday party. Everyone's coming over. It's a whole shebang, and Maud is like relegated to like the maid, basically. So like they're like, she has to like light the candles, get the lights, things like that, and all of this stuff is going on, and she's like helping people make sure that they have a nice time while all of this is going on. And then then while she's busying about, she hears Amanda talking about the fact, like, obviously Carol spilled the beans on their weird conversation, and now Amanda is making fun of Maud to all of her friends, talking about how she tried to get Carol to leave her alone, all because she wants to, like, save her soul, and, like, makes fun of Maud's beliefs. And then Maud slaps the shit out of Amanda's face to the point that she gets a bloody nose. And they all, like, it's a party, so, you know, they all, like, hustle her out of the house, and she is thus fired from being Amanda's caretaker. And that is the halfway point of this movie, is
Oh man,
is that Maud is no longer Amanda's caretaker.
it's a great moment to mark the halfway point. Yeah, she does. She slaps the crap out of her.
Yeah,
It's
that's a
rough.
holy slap.
There's that whole thing where she's talking shit to her, and then they have this kind of weird showdown, and Amanda says, "Am I indecent?" And Maud says, "No, you're lost."
Yeah.
It's like, oh man, this is not going well. So yeah, so she gets fired, which that's probably for the best.
Yeah,
And,
a little bit.
we see Maud. She's now back in her hovel, her box, and she's having like abdominal pain. She's like doubled over in pain. She's giving her like misery prayer. She's just really not doing well. She's deteriorating. She has what I described as goddessitis.
Yeah.
Her faith has been inflamed. Um,
Oh.
she's not doing great. She's obviously not responding well to the situation. I mean, that was not the outcome that she was hoping for. Plus, I'm sure she's humiliated after that experience. But
Yeah.
then we see her. She's at the beach. It's super gloomy. She's got this horribly worried look on her face. You hear her voice narrating over, more just kind of Maud stuff. I don't even remember specifically what she was talking about. I think it was
she's praying because, like, God's she's like, why did you make it all fucked up, God? What are you doing? If this is part of your purpose, it is obscured to me, and
That's right.
stuff like that. And, like, she also talks about, like, how she must appear like such a fool, and she was like, oh, Amanda probably saw me as like such a fool, like, this sucks. And all the while she's walking along, like, like, really scenic but dreary scenic shots, and it's like she's in like some sort of old fortress or something. It's crazy but neat looking, like, I want to go there. And it's a lot of, basically, she begins doubting God.
Yeah. She's things are kind of starting to tighten up here for her. Her options are getting getting less and less. So anyways, yeah. So she's back in her apartment. She's got the bandage off, and she's basically picking at the scab on her hand, on her body, and it's horrendous. And obviously it hurts, but she just keeps picking away at it, and it's just, oh god, it's really nasty.
It's pussy, and there's like the bubble in the middle still, and she just keeps like picking at it along the edges, and I don't know, probably eating what she picks off. Who knows?
I kept waiting for that. So back at the seawall, Maud sees Amanda. Just happens to catch Amanda in her wheelchair being pushed by her nurse. Back at the apartment, obviously she's, this is not something she's happy to see. So back at the apartment, as she finally just peels the disgusting scab all the way off her hand, this crucifix that she has wrapped in like a blue towel or something just launches itself off of her dresser onto the floor. Or falls. Maybe it just falls.
Yeah.
But it just happens to be the moment that she rips the scab off. So now it's nighttime, and Maud is on the town. She's all gussied up. She's got makeup on. She's drinking. She's in a bar. The bar is playing the Jesus Lizard. Nice little
I
touch.
didn't catch that. Nice.
She's just looks very, this weird combination of very out of place and this is not the first time that this has happened. It's
Yeah.
like very awkward, and also she's clearly got some knowledge of how these kind of things work. So she sees this guy who looks like, what's that?
Oh, I was just gonna say it mirrors the scene earlier when she's at that dingy diner,
Yeah.
because it's like her alone at a table in a crowded place, and it's like, you know, that thing where the camera is centered on her, and so you're seeing her as the center of
Mhm.
this like crowded place. It was really good, and
Yeah.
he sees the dweeby guy.
Yeah, she sees this dweeby guy sitting at another table, and they're making eyes with each other, and there's really no deliberation. It just cuts to her at the very end of a handy in the bathroom with like he's standing there, kind of looking off. You see the back of his head. She's kind of semi-facing the camera, just kind of staring off into the distance, and you just see her just, and you hear the guy like.
And he says sorry.
He said sorry. It's the most unsexual. Like it was so disgusting. It was not alluring in any way.
No, it was the most like obligatory tuggy I've ever seen.
I mean, kudos to that guy, because I don't know how he got into that. But then when she's done, she goes and she wipes her hand off on the towel and just walks out.
Yeah.
Wow, that happened. That was really awkward.
Yeah, she doesn't even say anything to him.
Nope. She's just, I'm done. You're done. We're done. We're done.
Yeah. Good job.
Back at the table, she's watching normal people have fun. There's a table of young people right next to her. They're having a great time. She's getting completely shit hammered, just drinking away. Finally, there's like this weird like interaction where they're laughing about something, and she's trying to like kind of like ingratiate herself into their little scene. Just don't do that, please. They don't even they don't even know you're there. Like, just stop. And then she she goes to the shitter. She calls Joyce while she's in the shitter, trying to get Joyce to come hang out with her. Joyce is being kind of short with her, like, I don't know exactly what she says, but she obviously just is like, shuts that down. We're not hanging out. Did you catch what actually went down there?
So okay, so it was like they were saying something nice. It was niceties, and then it was like Joy. So Maud said something about like, yeah, I thought it was weird when we ran into each other, and then she was like, no, don't be like that. Like it's like Joy's being like got upset that she said that, and she wanted Joy to come out, but she couldn't. And then Maud was trying to like cushion it with sounding like everything's fine. But then later it sounds like maybe she wasn't actually talking to Joy, because later in the movie when Joy's talking to her in her flat, she makes it sound like they didn't talk on the phone, and like she was like, oh, sorry, I didn't reply to your message. I was just so like bushed that night. So,
I missed that. Oh, that's crazy. Yeah, and then that means she just imagined the whole interaction.
it's possible. Like, I don't know what's going on there. It brings into question what is and is not going on in Maud's head. Or I could have just read the movie incorrectly.
Yeah. I mean, any of those work.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what we see, at least on screen, is that she's had this conversation with Joy, hoping that Joy will come out to join her, and that's not going to happen. So she's disappointed about that. She's really just, this is at the point at which you realize she's pretty much on this path to nowhere. I mean, this is not going to end well. Not that anyone thought it was going to end well at any point.
No.
There's no question that this is kind of like beyond the point of return. So she's sitting back at the table, and her glass has a beer NATO. So we see the swirly, which is her sign, that she's having like a religious moment, essentially. She runs into this gigantic bearish dude, who she obviously knows, at least, is, acquainted with, I should say. And again, there's very little communication. We just pretty much cut to power fucking.
Yeah.
She's on top of him, just going at it, very unceremoniously. It's not sexy. It's very mechanical. It's horrible. And
lots of wet clapping noises.
Yeah, it's a lot, all that uncomfortableness, and he's just gross. And she's, she knows she's hating it, and she's like starting to have, one of her Maud moments where, she's what's real and what isn't is starting to blend, and she starts having these flashes back to that blue tinged hospital when she worked for the NHS, and this person that, apparently not only it's starting to look more and more likely that this person didn't just die in her care, they died by her hands. It's the way it's starting to look. And as she's seeing this kind of flashing back and forth between that and her riding this creature, she's got her hands on his chest, and you see her hands in the blue hospital scene trying to revive somebody with chest compressions, and then it's back to him, and she presses her hands through his chest.
Yeah, crunch inward.
Just boom, just breaks the rib cage right in. And he's got blood coming out and everything. Of course, this is not actually happening, but this is how she experiences it. So she freaks the fuck out, and then she stops having sex with him because, her visions.
She is now done with having sex.
She's done because, she's had a moment. And so then he rapes her to complete his experience, because she says no, and he just does it anyway, and she just lays there and lets him finish. And then he starts musing about how she had this past as a party girl. He remembers her because she used to run around with his buddy, and which is always a good reason to want to have sex with a girl, because she's the same girl that ran around with your buddy.
Oh yeah, you gotta get what is that like the Igloo Club or something like that?
So he's done. What were you gonna say? Yeah.
Oh no, it was just like the rape scene is very, very muted, and it appears so minor. It was very effective, because she gets off, and then he climbs on top of her, and it seems like he's just gonna hug her and comfort her because she's obviously having a bad time, but then it's no, he's finishing up, and she says no just the one time very quietly, and he's no, here, just real quick, and then it's just a close-up of her face as she's just waiting for it to be over. It's fucking intense, but in a very muted way. It's very unsettling.
It's not infused with a ton of drama, but it's probably closer to a lot of what a lot of women have to experience, where it's not always such an aggressive situation where some guy is literally forcing himself on her and she's fighting him and screaming no. I think more often than not it's a situation like this where the he's just being pushy. He thinks that, well, we've come this far. He thinks that she owes him something, which is absurd. And he's not willing to accept that, a woman is allowed to change her mind at any point.
Yeah.
So he just thinks he's obligated to do what he wants, so he does. And she obviously is, in a position where she's like, well, all right, I guess this is what's happening. So she's just kind of laying there. It's intense. It's really intense.
Yeah, it's a great example to use if you have a friend that's I can't really tell where the line is between rape and not rape. Show them this scene of this movie, and if their question is, well, is that rape or isn't it? Inform them, yes, it is.
Yes, it is. And then raise your children so that they know the difference, so that you don't...
Yeah.
Your son isn't the kid who's, out there taking liberties with women because they weren't clear enough to him. It's dude, have some fucking common sense. Have some awareness of situational awareness. But anyways, this guy has none of that, and
nope.
He takes advantage of her.
He calls her pretty little nursey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's disgusting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
she
it's all like
fulfills.
close up on his mouth while he's like smoking the cigarette. He's like, "Yeah, that's right, pretty little nursey."
So disgusting. He might as well just be dripping with grease. He's so
Oh
gross. And
yeah,
so he leaves. Great. Thank God he's gone. And then she leaves actually. And then she
yeah.
leaves, and then we see this really cool camera shot where she's like walking through this disgusting, grimy tunnel, and the camera's kind of in the one end of the tunnel, and we're watching her come in, but it's twisted at like this crazy angle. So it makes you feel you feel off balance even though she's just walking through the damn tunnel. Great shot.
She's very drunk.
She's very drunk, so it's a great way of portraying that. She makes it home, and then we get her having her mega repentant prayer slash begging God session, where she's just like, she feels terrible for what she's done, and she's not going to do that anymore. That kind of whole, she's regretting what she's just done, obviously, and she wants to bring herself back into the fold or whatever. And so she's having this big prayer session that's very intense, and then as it kind of starts rising up in fervor, it culminates in this weird panic-gasm, barfing slash firework breakdown, illumination, revelation, everything happening at the same time scene. It's really heavy.
And the big like waves of music, like boom, boom, like it's just all bombarding her, and she is flinging her body around the hole, and by hole I mean like 10 square foot flat, and just
Ugh.
like having an entire induced crazy nonsense trip.
Which you can portray so many ways. Sure, that it could be literally happening. She's having, in the real world, maybe she's having a guilt fit because she reverted to her old ways, which she associates with this culmination in something horrible happening that she obviously is either literally responsible for or feels responsible for. Same result anyway for her. That led to her having this conversion and leaving the National Health Service and becoming a nurse and going down this weird devout, road. And here she is. She's just reverted back to her old behavior, which she obviously has some experience with, and she's repentant. And she ends up writhing on the floor, foaming at the mouth. She sees Nancy on the ceiling. And then all of a sudden, as the fireworks are going off outside her, she's like in a basement apartment, kind of, it seems like, because it seems like the window is at ground level. I just get that impression. I don't know. But you can see the glow of the fireworks. You can hear them. And she's on her back, floating up off the floor with her, like, arms and legs kind of hanging behind her. Great shot.
Yeah, and it's like as all of that music dies off too, so it's this like moment of pure spiritual elation. It's wonderful. Like, God damn it, Rose Glass, you're a genius.
Yeah, because as that music strips away, you're just left with that experience. It's like you have to interpret it however you're forced to have to deal with that moment without any artifice. Really, it's just there for you to take in. Which is great. And then next day, she's cleaning up. You see her in the shower. She's back to her old self. That we've kind of seen her throughout the rest of the movie. She burns her old clothes that she was wearing.
That was weird.
Yeah, in the sink, and she's refocused, I guess you could say.
Yeah. That was I was having a hard time with that, but yeah, she burns her old things in the sink. One of the things that I like this movie is it's kind of got a it's out of time. Like, it's the modern day because they have smartphones, but other than that, nothing in the movie says modern. Everything in this movie says like 1962 at the latest.
Nobody's watching TV. Nobody's. Yeah, like maybe the music and some of maybe the clothes that Carol, Amanda's companion, wears. that's about it. I mean, then it could be any other time period.
Yeah, it's great. I love it. Um, so then now she's praying again. She's had her big mega moment, which, by the way, that was the thing that uh mental distress induced euphoria. That was like the thing that clicked with me. I've experienced something akin to that, and it was very
Same.
intense. Yep, yeah, it was very intense. It's not something that I'm ultra proud of, but it was at a point in my life where a lot of stuff was going on in my brain chemistry and in my emotional life, and like seeing it play out like that on the screen was just, that was unreal. And Rose Glass, I don't know if you've gone through that, but that was amazing. Thank you very much for capturing that the way you did.
The,
And
the,
Morphin
the,
Clark.
yeah, the experience of ecstasy, which I have had, I've had ecstatic moments in my life, and I, I say that because I know the difference.
Yeah.
I've been elated before. I've been really excited. I've been very happy. I've been happy to the point of tears. I've had all kinds of different expressions of joy, but ecstasy, like actual ecstatic expression, has happened to me a couple times, and it's a little scary. I mean,
Yeah.
you feel that way. You feel outside of your body, watching yourself experience this. It's not an easy thing to do, but there's nothing else like it. You know, it's like this weird form of intense. It's like the perfect melding of pain and joy. It's really weird. I don't know. I can't explain it. So she captured it really well.
Yeah, she did a great job. That scene specifically was part of like my hesitancy to tackle this whenever we first started. Like I wasn't sure how to talk about it or what I was even comfortable talking about. And yeah, like you said, it's a hard thing to capture. Damn, it's just fucking great that she managed to get that the way she did. I am forever impressed and grateful, honestly, to have seen that.
Well,
From this
it's a
point,
bridge. It's a bridge between. Sorry, it's a bridge between like
oh, you're good.
the faith and the mental illness. So it's, which is particularly in the modern world is a very common perception. I mean, there as powerful as Christianity is in this country, there obviously, the people who create the voice against it are they feel more comfortable than they've ever felt historically. And so this tug back and forth between, what some people explain as what they witness or what they experience or what they feel versus what the guy next to them is describing as you're a fucking loon or you're just making it up. It's just you're just a fantasy for you because you wish you could experience it. There's this push and pull because it's like, well, ultimately you never really know what another person's experience is. They're allowed to have that experience, but sometimes the way that people express their existence is intimidating or frightening or disturbing, even if it's not meant to be. And Maud is the embodiment of that form of expression. She's like the walking example of it. So
Yeah, it's fucking fantastic.
yeah.
Yeah. I would highly recommend, if you're interested, there is a video, the British Film Institute, BFI, at home. It's a video on YouTube called Saint Maud Director Rose Glass in Conversation with Alice Lowe, who is also a director, I believe, of horror movies. And they like go into it. And one of the things that they described, which it never dawned on me, like never clicked in my head. They described this movie as like a possession movie, like The Exorcist, but instead of being possessed by a demon or being possessed by the devil, Saint Maud is being possessed by God. And I was like, fuck, that's good. Damn it.
It's very much true. I mean, it is. That's exactly how you could describe it. I mean, it works perfectly that way.
Yeah.
Except that it's, in this case, well, I mean, I was going to say, when you're possessed by a demon, it's usually portrayed as against your will. I was going to say in this case, it wasn't against her will, but I don't know. Maybe it is against her will. Maybe it is something that's being subjected onto her, that she's just accepting it because she thinks of it as God. Maybe it isn't even God at all. Maybe it isn't even. Who fucking knows?
It's all very good and interesting. I fucking love this movie. So she's had this literal this come to Jesus moment,
Mm-hmm.
and now she's back. And so part of her penance, this is some more like Opus Dei esque nonsense. She like, I don't know if it's like a postcard or whatever, but like pictures of the saints, maybe something from William Blake's art. Um, she gets this like little Dr. Scholl's insert shape of paper with the saint's face on it. She shoves thumbtacks through it, puts that in her shoe, pointy tack part facing up, and then steps down into it, and then we just see her walking around town, and we can hear the crunchy squish every time she takes a step. She's walking on this photo of saints full of thumbtacks digging into her skin, her tendons, and probably even her bones. And it is so she's having this like this pain bliss like penance thing. God damn, fuck,
That
Jesus.
that was a very visceral moment. It was like, oh, when she stepped out.
Yeah, it is so wow. Body horror. It entered body horror at least at this moment, and fuck, that is so fucking good. This movie really like cranks it up a notch around that her big like moment with God, and then all the way through it's just going all the way. So now Maud's on a mission. We're hearing her prayers. She's talking about Amanda, thinking about Amanda, praying about Amanda. Like now she is fucking obsessed with Amanda and what God wants her to do about Amanda. Let's go. So she gets back. She saw that one nurse that was her Amanda's new nurse, and she, I guess, has been spying on her. She sees the lady sitting alone on a bench overlooking the ocean, eating a sad lunch sandwich by herself. So she goes over there, pretends to be someone she's not, and just asks her, like, "Oh, you're a nurse? Oh, I think you're great. Oh, what's that? You have a new client? How's she doing? How's her this?" And so she's basically like spying on Amanda through this new nurse. She finds out like that this lady's like, yeah, whatever. I think she's gonna die soon. And like that, like boom, blows up inside Maud's brain, even though at the very beginning of the movie, Maud was like, I don't think this lady's going to live very much longer. So then she just leaves.
And she's judgmental about it. But with her, she's so pious, it's like you see the hypocrisy in her a little bit there.
Yeah, because this lady is obviously not like super duper godly. She's just like a regular lady.
She's just a lady doing her job, yeah.
Yeah, and so then she just gets up and walks away, and that lady's like, oh, okay. I guess I'll just finish eating my sad sandwich.
England is so sad.
Yeah. And then she prays again. There's more uncertainty. She's asking God for guidance, and then God shows up. It's the roach appears at the ceiling, climbs all the way down the wall, out from under the bed, across the room. Oh, and she's set up her chest of drawers is a whole fucking like shrine. Like with all of these like pictures that she's cut out, pasted into there. It's great. And it crawls under there, and then it starts talking to her through the shrine. And that's what you heard at the beginning of this podcast, that distorted voice. That's Morfydd Clark speaking in Welsh. And I don't have the script, but it's saying all kinds of things. It's really crazy, but it's giving her guidance like, hey, you gotta do what you gotta do, basically. And
but this is a great, yeah. the great embrace is coming, and this is her last
Yeah.
test, and they're going to be together.
Yeah, she's gonna get her big reward. It's gonna be great. Just keep the faith and keep on keeping on. And I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, or things like that. Uh, so she's very grateful and thankful, and now she's on a mission, and she creates herself a set of robes out of her bed sheets. Very sanity thing to do.
I was like, oh, that's very creative. Nicely done.
We see her. She fills up her sink with water, dunks the water bottle in it, and then is doing little like making the sign of the cross over the water, blessing it for holy purpose. Then she also yeah. Then she's also got all of these bottles of chemicals. She's like, hydrogen peroxide. I don't think so. Then you see her. She pulls up the bottle of acetone. And she's like, yeah, this one.
That's the one.
Yep, this is the holy shit.
The Lord's acetone. I put here, I'm feeling really, really good about this.
Yeah, what could go wrong? She's just gotta remove some nail polish from the evil.
Yeah, just a lot of nail polish.
Yeah.
And so around this time, the next day, I guess, Joyce pops by for a visit. It's kind of a weird scene because she's got her nurse get up on, and she's kind of checking up on Maud. I think she feels, kind of weird about their interaction the other day, and she's obviously knows Maud's history, so she's, just kind of checking up on her. So she comes over to see how she's doing. She realizes that Maud has got, she sees the shrine. And she's like, hey, that's lovely. This is real nice. I like how you've done this.
Yeah, I love that. She's being so nice. Like, oh.
Oh, that's nice. It looks like you're total fucking nut. I love it.
Yeah. You're totally off your crumpet, ain't you?
Well, that's great. Maybe if you put one more cross, you might have 50 of them. It's like, you can tell she's just like, oh, coming here was not a good idea.
Yeah.
She's hanging out, trying to be friendly, trying to be supportive of her friend, trying to make amends. At least that's what Maud is seeing. Meantime, Maud is looking out the window thing that's like above her head. So she's looking up out into the sky, essentially. It's really all you can see out this window. She's looking up in the sky. The clouds are starting to do the swirly.
Yeah.
So we know what that means. That's her signal. And so she's watching this happen. Joyce is blathering on. She's not really paying attention to her. And then Maud walks over. She's hiding her burned hand. She's got her bandaged hand hiding behind her back the whole time. So then she goes over and she gives Joy, touches her face and gives her a little kiss, blesses her. God blesses you. So on and so forth. And then she she opens the door. Joy's like, oh, right. I guess it's, yeah. Oh, look at the time.
Yeah, I need to be getting anyway.
Yeah, very unceremoniously just kicks her out, basically. So she's gone. Nothing's wrong. She's fine. Maud is fine. And
I really liked in that scene, like Joy is apologizing, and then she starts to explain about how they could have, the other nurses could have handled it better once they started seeing the signs that Maud might be in trouble or something like that. And then during her explanation of what happened, that's when Maud sees the swirl and tunes out, and we lose the ability to hear what Joy is saying. So it's kept away from us. Exactly what happens. Brilliant.
What is your perception of what happens? My perception is that she, like I told you, that someone has obviously died under her care, but that may be more than just that she was obviously somehow implicated, whether through negligence or she may have even intentionally done it. I don't know how do you read that?
So I think, I don't know if she caused the patient to go into cardiac arrest, or if the patient actually was in cardiac arrest. But what I picked up is that she was doing chest compressions on a patient, and crushed their like rib cage in. Because in that opening scene, you even see that there's like blood dripping everywhere, and there's blood all over her gloves.
Yeah.
And we saw that flashback during the sex scene of her like thinking that she had like crushed his chest in. I think that's what happened. So whether it was maybe that she just thought the patient was in cardiac arrest, or caused the patient to be in cardiac arrest, or even if neither of those are true, just wasn't thinking about the fragility of the elderly patient's bones, something like that. She caused the death of this patient through some manner of medical negligence.
It's cool that they don't tell you outright. I mean, my mother had open heart surgery, so it occurred to me that it's like, well, maybe this person had just had open heart surgery, and she's getting chest compressions on a chest that's like a fucking bird cage with no hinge. So
yeah, it's just held together with chicken wire.
It's like just a little rack of pretzels.
Yeah.
And she clearly did not respond well to it, and he did not get any support from anybody around her either, which obviously didn't help. So
yeah,
I think
mostly
Joyce,
just fire.
Yeah, Joyce obviously feels somewhat guilty for what went down. I think that's kind of the message there. Maud is done though. She's got her message. She's finished with Joy. She's finished with her past. That stuff is all. It's either gone or it was just leading her to where she is now. She's got a mission. So she heads out. She's got her robes on. She's bed sheet robed again. We've got the A24 music just. I mean, it's in case you're wondering, we're coming to a point, and she's she's just like, yeah, she's ready to rock. So she walks over to Amanda's place. She shows up at Amanda's house. It's nighttime, of course. She kind of hangs out. She's kind of hiding off to the side. She waits. The nurse leaves. She waits for the nurse to leave, and then she just strolls right in. As soon as she walks in, the light fades again, just like it did earlier, which is kind of one of those triggers. Amanda is in her bed. Maud walks into Amanda's room. Amanda's laying there with her eyes closed. Amanda opens her eyes and looks over and sees her. And they kind of have this moment where they make amends. Amanda apologizes for the way that she treated her. I really get the impression that a lot of that interaction. Well, at first I thought maybe she was imagining that, but I think because I was like, well, she just walked into her fucking house. I mean, the lady's laying there, but at the same time, the lady's essentially on her deathbed. So for her, it's like, she probably did feel somewhat guilty for the way she treated Maud, because, I mean, to be fair, she was a total bitch to her, even though what Maud did wasn't cool either.
And even in Maud's exit interview, whenever she's talking to that like nurse practitioner or whatever, the lady asked her, she was like, so the lady said had concerns even outside of you like bitch slapping her. She's worried about your state of being. And so there is obviously a little bit more care there than just pure anger.
Yeah, which is great because it reminds you that we're on unsteady ground. Our narrator is Maud. I mean, this story is being told to us through Maud. So you're just along for the ride. It's like, okay, well, whatever. So they have this moment. Amanda is apologizing to her. Could be happening, may not be happening at all. None of this may be happening. There's some more God talk. And Amanda delivers just an absolutely devastating line where she says, you must be the loneliest girl I've ever seen. And then, as if that's not enough, she just starts to dig in with he isn't real. And just that whole, just completely discounts this girl's entire reason to exist. And this girl's already balls deep in this whole, mythology that she's built for herself. That's the last thing she wants or needs to hear, to be honest. Because she obviously cares a lot for Amanda, and she really hoped, as you had mentioned, that she was going to be able to bring Amanda around. Well, that clearly didn't happen. It was never going to So
Yeah.
then Amanda lays the I faked the godgasm bit on her. Where that whole
Yeah.
thing was like, I didn't really feel that, and it's like, okay, that's just cruel. And then she really kind of digs into that, she really hones in. And in the meantime, Maud busts out the holy water bottle and like takes out some of the water and puts it on Amanda's face, like touches her face, and Amanda reacts as if it's burning her. But also, you could interpret that as she's just pissed off that this girl's doing this. Like, get your fucking fingers off my face. It's
you can hear it sizzle just a little.
Sizzle. And now you're like, what is about to happen?
She tells her I think the quote is "Get a grip, honey," something like that. Right. She's like being really, really dismissive.
And then it's like full on with the holy water, and guess what? Amanda is the devil. Like she turns into like a very, very disturbing portrayal of the devil. Like very just like wider than usual eyes, the mouth, like the whole thing is just, it's like subtle but intense and very effective.
She's got like the same face distortion that Maud had when she was having her like little happy moments at the sink. Yeah. But then she's also like hunched over and just a little bit less human looking and not getting out of bed, yet somehow just a little bit more mobile and energy filled. And it's great.
Arachnidy crawling on the bed a little bit, but not over the top. It's slight scarring maybe that you can see from the holy water, but again, she doesn't look like a bucket of latex. Like, it's very well done and disturbing as shit. And
fuck yeah,
Maud is not having it, so she grabs some scissors and just fucking like maligns her with them, just stab, like really fast. It's really rough, and Amanda's like screaming or whatever, and then she just jabs them into her neck, and it's just a very ugly, very violent, and visceral death.
Yeah. She basically
I had to take a breath after that.
She basically perforates Amanda from like the left shoulder to the right armpit. It is intense. And even those scissors are like were a foreshadowed. Like she was using that same pair of scissors earlier whenever she was like, I forget what, doing some nonsense. And so like the camera even like lingered on those scissors because it was like imprinting itself onto Maud as an important relic. Fucking great.
That's quality right there. Yeah. It's a very violent scene. It's very intense. Amanda's dead, so she's killed her, and it's fucking hardcore. And
she's just like laying there with the scissors sticking out of her neck.
It's rough. She, she's dying of cancer. She's obviously going through chemo and stuff, so her hair's all falling out. She doesn't have her head scarf on, so she looks rough.
Yeah.
So Maud leaves. We see Maud walking away from the house covered in blood, like a slow motion shot. It's just a continuation of the murder itself. She gets back to her place. She's kind of looking in the mirror, washing herself off. She's obviously in La La Land at this point. She goes to bed. Next day, she gets up and she all of a sudden, as the camera kind of changes the angle, we see that she's standing there and she has this big glowing pair of wings, angel wings, that she's just like checking them out, like, hey.
Yeah.
Like, look at that.
It looks super fake, but it's also like really effective. Like she's got like they're just like glowing energy light wings, and and they move with her, so she like tries to like turn around to see them better, but they're just stuck to her back, and she's like, all right,
I guess this is where I'm at now. I'm an angel, of course, because I just killed the devil.
I did it.
She gets all robed up. She gets her bag of crap. We see her heading off to the beach. It's another gloomy British beach day, and she's all robed up. She's got that look of just pure focus, just glossy eyes, just staring kind of off up and out into the distance. She sees the swirl. She heads out to where the swirl is in the beach, and she gets down there under it, and she pulls out of her bag this big bottle of, is it acetone?
It's acetone, the acetone from earlier.
I don't know why she has like 4 gallons of acetone, but she does, and probably got it from her nursing or whatever. It doesn't matter. So she pulls this big bottle out and she's pouring it over her head. Well, she's already dressed in robes, so she's probably caught some attention. Now she's pouring some sort of liquid over her head. I think we all know that's the international symbol for self-immolation coming. So,
yeah, and there's tons of people just strolling one by one all up and down the beach while she's doing this.
Some of them are starting to look, and then you hear a woman in the, oh my God, somebody needs to stop her.
Yeah.
And it's that whole deal. And then, so she's poured all the shit out. She's got a whole audience, they're all perfectly spaced. It's clearly looks like it looked like pure fantasy. Like, people don't line up like this, but at the same time, this is some sort of an intense religious moment. So maybe they're compelled to, again, you're still trapped in this, what is happening or isn't happening. She pulls out the fanciest lighter ever made with little things. Like, I don't know what the hell was going on with that lighter. I guess it's a British lighter. I don't know.
Yeah.
And she lights herself and just in pure ecstasy just goes up in flames, and all the people fall to their knees, and it's super intense. And then just as the movie is about to end, we get just a moment of seeing her actually on fire in pure agony, and then we go to huge credits.
Yep.
Like, beautiful.
Amazing. Yeah, that scene, like, before we get the agony, it's she's not like in fire, she's just in pure brilliant energy.
Yeah.
And I love that shot because then it's panned back and we see all of the people on the beach drop to their knees, like in a state of like pure god worship. And then it like goes quiet, like the screen goes off and it looks like the movie's over, and then it's just over. And then it's just that close up of her face burning and screaming for half,
and then the movie's over.
And then boom, Saint Maud,
hard cut Saint Maud.
Oh my God, zero denouement, just fucking punch you. Oh, it's so fucking good.
It was fantastic.
Yeah,
great ending. She's reached her rapturous moment. This is her ascension. This is her, her redemption. Her whatever. It's like all these things. But then, just at the last second, we get a moment of, oh, now she's just set herself on fire on a beach. It's so good.
So fucking good. Oh, fucking amazing. I love everything about this movie. I wouldn't change a single bit. I really loved the fine detail work on Maud's like spiritual myth building, everything involved in that final sequence, all of the foreshadowing that led up to it. And that question about whether it's actually foreshadowing or just self-fulfilling of prophecy, like the whole fact that it's in that between state of, is this her fantasy or is this, as we would assume with any normal like demon possession horror movie, is this a thing that's really happening? Like, I love that disconnection from the certainty in there. I love the fact that she was seeing all of these little bits of mundane life, and because she was so eager and needed things to be signs from God, she was then interpreting them as signs for God. But again, maybe they were signs from God or whatever this God was, like the pit is a God. So maybe this roach is also a God, maybe not the God. It's all fantastic. The fire, the swirl in the drain became the sign in the sky, very Donnie Darko-esque.
Mm-hmm.
And And then, you've got like the supremely badass William Blake element, which I would argue maybe should make this my rating a 6 out of 5, but I did in fact give Saint Maud a 5 out of 5 loathsome things.
Yeah, that's awesome. A 6 out of 5. I gave it a 6 out of 5.
Yes. One for God.
Yeah, it's yeah, I mean, I don't have the kind of background that you have when it comes to that kind of stuff. I mean, religion had no role really in my life growing up other than interactions with other people outside of my immediate family. My parents they didn't go to church. It wasn't something we talked about. It wasn't even a subject that we discussed, which I think is weird because, to me, it's something that I've always been interested in, like whether or not I was religious or whatever, it never really mattered. It's always been fascinating to me. I mean, how can you not take an interest in it? My parents are not, my parents are fairly intelligent people. I mean, they're thinking people. So I always thought it was strange that was maybe they intentionally kept that out and they wanted us to figure it out for ourselves, which is quite possible. I don't think my dad has any interest in any of that stuff anyway. But yeah, so for me, it's like I don't have that background, but at the same time, I have a lot of appreciation for the story and the way that it was done. I mean, it's beautifully shot. It's like gloomy, but not necessarily a downer. It's a downer in the sense that obviously this is a person who's can be portrayed as someone who's suffering a tremendous amount, but
Yes.
But who are we to really, like fully understand what it is that she's experiencing? It's like we're given a ticket to witness something that we're really not allowed to be a part of. So we have a front row seat to something that's so intensely personal and private that it's almost like it's not fair that we're seeing this, which is an incredible way to present a story. I mean,
Yeah,
of course,
it's like an intrusion on her privacy almost.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's there's things about it that I think like I mean, I'm a dude, so obviously I can only relate to a certain level when if you're making a movie where it's like an intense portrayal of a female character. I can only relate to it from a male point of view. So there's some work that I have to do mentally to be able to bridge that gap, especially if it's a movie that I respect. And so that was the case with me. But none of those things are detractions. Those are just the realities of watching a movie like this. And I mean, I can't, it's like I can't think of any reason why I wouldn't give it a 5 too. So I gave it a 5 as well.
Fuck yeah, dude.
Yeah, I mean, I loved it. It's a great movie. I love watching it and I love thinking about it. So, I mean, what else do you want from a fucking movie, really?
Yeah. So that is a 10 out of 10 from us. That's only our second ever 10 out of 10.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I can, with any movie, there's always something you could say, like whatever it is. If you made it, maybe you would have made something, or you would have done something different because you would have made it, whatever. But ultimately, sometimes you have to take a stand with a movie and just say, this movie just hits the buttons,
Yeah,
So.
yeah, and this movie totally does. I'm a little sad because we aren't able to see it in its original state. Rose Glass filmed it in a different, an abnormal aspect ratio. She filmed
really?
it so that it was narrower because she wanted there to be more room above the characters in all of the shots. And so then they had to like cut it down and in some instances digitally add space onto the sides of the scenes in order to make it just fit normal people's screens. I think that's fucking awesome too. I would have liked to have seen it in that narrower and taller original aspect ratio. But yeah, I mean, to me, this movie is like you said, like there's nothing wrong with it. I wouldn't change anything. It is as close to perfection as a horror movie gets. And I'm very surprised that we don't hear more about it. We hear, like a lot of people talk about a lot of movies, but like this one got some chatter when it first came out at I don't remember which film festival it came out of,
Uh,
but it got chatter then. It got chatter whenever it finally came to home video. But then, other than that, people don't really talk about it. And I think it's a fucking masterpiece. Like, I'm blown away by it. I was not expecting this movie to be this good whenever I started watching it. Whenever I heard about it, and it's just amazing to me.
it's really, yeah, it's ridiculous if you consider that this is her first feature. Not that she hasn't had experience making films, but if you listen to any director, a feature film is a lot different than a short film. I mean, it's some of the mechanics are there, but it's a whole different way to tell a story. And she does it so confidently that it's hard to imagine this is her first film. And then it's like, okay, well, where's she going to go from here? It's going to be interesting to see what she does next for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And also the fact that like whoever was funding this, I guess probably like, over in England they have like more funding for the arts, so
Yeah,
maybe that went into it, but the fact that this wasn't like wrested from her control and turned into a more commercialized thing, like the fact that she was allowed to like go and do this is great. And man, she nailed it. Maybe they tried to and she just like was too much of a badass and she was like, no, fuck you, we're gonna make this movie amazing like it needs to be. I don't know, but I fucking love this. This is
it was a critical success.
Yeah.
I'm sure it didn't make a ton of money at the box office because these kind of movies don't, but that's not a reflection of anything other than mainstream audiences don't always go for movies like this. Critics recognized it, and obviously, if you read a lot of critical reviews, you know that critics don't always get it right, of course. Sometimes the general critical consensus of a film is, you may radically disagree with it and wonder what the fuck they're thinking, but sometimes they get stuff right. This is the kind of movie that I think works very well as far as the way critics read it, and I think they got it right. A lot of the critical analysis that I read about this movie, I think, was pretty good. So yes, I think this is a movie that you definitely should check out, especially if there's anything that we've talked about that resonates with you and you haven't seen this for whatever reason, go see the goddamn thing.
Yeah, it's great. This yeah, definitely. Like anything that we described, if that sounds like something that you would like to see portrayed, go find it. It's available on multiple streaming services. One in particular, which you probably already have, if you like not having to pay for shipping from the only place to order things on the internet anymore. And it's just a great piece of work. Even if these things aren't things that you're interested in, it's a great horror movie all on its own.
It is a good movie. I think, yeah, I think it would be hard. You'd be hard pressed to find people who like movies and who like horror movies that would watch this and say they just hated it. I mean,
Yeah.
I think even the worst that would happen to a horror movie fan would be that they'd watch this and say, not necessarily my thing, but I still thought it was a good movie. It's definitely worth checking out.
Yeah. Unless, of course, they're the kind of people that get angry about the topic of, quote, elevated horror, which, so elevated horror is a tag that's getting applied to things, also specifically being applied to like A24 movies of like, it's this pushback. Yeah, it's a pushback against horror movies that have a point. And there's even a Paste article called like Men and the End of Elevated Horror. But there's this all of this nonsense, like if you go to like Reddit and Twitter and places where people talk about horror movies, people are there's some anti elevated horror sentiment because the very word elevated makes it sound like above, like movies that whatever are above. And it's interesting because that same argument has played out in other arenas. Like that happened in the science fiction and fantasy fiction world. There was a whole movement because basically because a black woman won the award for like best fantasy and science fiction novel. Then all of a sudden you had pushback, people like stuffing ballots, like organizing in order to, according to them, not be racist or sexist, but to argue that something doesn't have to have like higher thematic concepts to be good. Like that, just pure adventure novels.
Yeah, I mean it doesn't, but so what?
Yeah,
that's what kills me about people. It's like people have these weird. Yeah, we've talked about this. How people frame, the quality of movies within whatever walls they decide to erect to try to to try to dog ear this stuff. So it's like, oh well, this movie is elevated horror, so it's somehow that this movie thinks it's better than other horror films. It's like, dude, if you don't like this or it doesn't appeal to you or it's not, then don't fucking watch it. I mean, there's no shortage of Freddy Krueger films or slashers or dumb, and I'm not saying that those movies aren't any good, but there's all kinds of movies out there. So it's suddenly we're living in an era where life is a little bit serious and you've got a bunch of young directors that are, motivated to make horror films that maybe are a little bit more serious than some of the movies that we've loved in the 90s, particularly in the 80s. Okay, well, that's the way it is right now. I'm sure it will change again. And, every movie will be like The Sadness or whatever. Like, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
It'll just be some guy with a blood cannon just for 2 hours, which is great. That's great. There's nothing wrong with it. If I turn on a horror movie and I immediately am just like, man, this movie sucks, I'll turn it off. I don't care. I don't have to get on Reddit and insult anybody who likes it. It's just so weird to me, that whole thing. I mean, I get it and I don't get it. I get it because that's how people are. They clutch their fucking pearls. It's like, if they don't understand something, it's because it's bad.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe
it is bad. I don't know. Well, sorry.
Oh no, go ahead. It's her name is N.K. Jemisin, and she.
Oh, okay, yeah.
She won the Hugo Award 3 years in a row, the first person to ever win the Hugo Award 3 years in a row, and there was pushback about it. There is a group that called themselves the Sad Puppies, and their whole thing was that they were sad because like normal, just regular pulpy adventure novels should be considered for awards and not everything be gatekept by what they saw as like the academic elite and things like that. And the same argument played out across non-genre fiction, where you've got they tried to brand things as literary fiction as opposed to like James Patterson, which
right.
And that same thing is happening in horror now. You have like a movie will either play with contemplative themes and symbolism and things like that, which you might push it into the realm of literary, or it could just be a story about a guy with a blade that kills people, and both are fine. Like the same thing it's happening in books, it's happening all over the place. There are different levels of academic depth that you can read into a thing, and it doesn't elevate one above the other, and it doesn't make one lesser than the other. But for some reason it created a rift in the science fiction and fantasy community, and it's creating a rift in the fiction in the horror film community, where like they're talking about how like socially conscious movies are trying to be uppity and better. And I'm sure part of it is that there are fans that are like, oh, well, that's not a very elevated horror film and I won't watch it. Like toxicity exists on both sides of every coin, and it's all very fucked up. And I wanted to address it because it can go fuck itself. The whole argument can go fuck itself.
I mean, you and I have talked many times about how much we appreciate some of the more literary, maybe intellectually minded horror films. It's not necessarily that they're even better, but there's been a shortage of those for a long time. And to see an actual movement of sorts where you have a number of directors that seem to be informed by each other's work a little bit, maybe influenced by each other. It's refreshing to me. It's not a sign of like overly academic stuffiness. For me, it's actually like a release of a sort, because you can make, if you make 500 slasher films, maybe at some point, like around the 10th or 11th one, it might occur to you that we're not going anywhere with this, and that's fine. But hey, maybe somebody else isn't into that and they want to do something else that's scary to them, and that's what this is. It's not better. It's just different, And I don't know why that the "it's not better, it's just different" line is something that so many people have a hard time with. Like they're just like, oh, I don't like this. Midsummer's just so up its own ass or whatever. It's like, yeah, that's fine. But if you're going to go on Reddit and then start insulting everybody who likes the movie and telling them they're just pompous assholes because they can't lighten up in like a real movie or whatever, I have like no patience for that kind of stuff, because it's just like, who cares?
Yeah.
And Maud definitely fits the elevated horror, I guess, from your description.
Yeah. It has themes that it's playing with. It has subtlety and nuance, and it's not just like it's not a stereotypical horror movie, which a lot of people want a stereotypical horror movie, and if that's what you're looking for, it's the wrong movie for you. But if it is what you're looking for, it's so fucking good. Jesus, fuck yeah.
That's the thing that I guess it's like you want to be able to explain to these people that are having a hard time with it. It's like, look, this movie fills a gap that I've experienced growing up watching movies. So all the movies I saw, some of them I loved, some of them, I really enjoyed watching, even though they were schlocky or whatever. But no movie ever really scratched that particular itch. And finally someone comes along and does it. And it's going to be a great experience just because you've been wanting something like that for so long. And then to see someone actually do it well, like you're just like, like fires on all cylinders. So I understand that it's not going to be for every, I know, like the people I work with, I'm not going to tell them to go watch Saint Maud because I already know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
What are you fucking faggot? Like, I'm not, it's not even worth it. I just enjoy that stuff in my world where I'm talking to you in a podcast, and any moron that's wanting to just drift through and listen to it is welcome to do so. And if they don't like it, then go fuck off. I don't really care, because but the other part of my entire life is about pretending like I don't know those things exist.
Yes. Yep. That makes sense. Yeah. And I a lot of the argument is that now now all of a sudden the industry is flooded with these types of horror movies.
That's fair.
Yeah. And that article that I mentioned, the Paste article, their argument isn't that elevated horror is bad. Their argument is that now it is in such high demand that people are trying to clumsily reproduce that, and so now we're ending up with these faux elevated horror films where they're just trying to like do paint by numbers and it's not working. That article is specifically talking about the A24 film by Alex Garland, Men, which
I've heard,
that it's just kind of a I haven't seen it yet, I don't know, but it did dampen my enthusiasm to see it.
I like Alex Garland, and I think he has a tendency to kind of get that kind of reaction out of people. So it's like I'm going to definitely watch it. If that's how I respond, I wouldn't be surprised. But I do like that he gets that kind of reaction out of people. So people are like, I think he went too far with this, like he's trying too hard to do a certain thing. And I'm like, have you followed Alex Garland at all? Because that's his whole career is that way. I mean, Alex Garland is like rides the edge between unbearable and really cool all day long. And you just kind of have to accept him for who he is, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But when it works, it's great.
Yeah. At least you're going to get a visually enthralling film out of Alex Garland. Like if you you watch his work, you know that you're going to like see something impressive that you weren't expecting.
Yeah, he's talented. He's a talented guy, and he's got at least got some interesting ways of telling a story. Doesn't always work, but that's fine.
All right, so that is a 10 out of 10. That is our second 10 out of 10. It goes along with what's his name? Bob something. Bob Dead Guy. What's his name? God damn it.
Oh, you're talking about Black Christmas.
Yeah, Bob Clark.
Bob Clark's Black Christmas.
Bob Dead Guy Clark's Black Christmas. This now sits atop our best horror films of all time list. Alongside that, it is fantastic. I would highly recommend going and watching both of those movies. Also, if you're watching this movie and you feel like, hey, what else should I be watching that feels like this? Try Donnie Darko, or I don't know, maybe Carrie. It's got some Carrie vibes to it.
It definitely has some Carrie vibes to it. You know, it's weird that there's like this weird. Have you caught on to any of this weird Donnie Darko backlash that's happening right now?
I did not know there was Donnie Darko backlash. Oh no!
I've read some places and like heard some podcast people that I listen to that are just like dogging on that movie, and I really enjoyed it when I saw it. I saw it a few times. My son is he's 18. He loves it. I mean, so it's not like it's a generational thing. I don't really know. I didn't realize that was one of those movies, that where people had mixed feelings about it. I don't know if it's the philosophical thing or.
I recently got a surprise because I made a Donnie Darko reference to a group of my coworkers, and none of them got it because none of them had seen the movie, and that surprised me. I thought it was one of those like universally seen films, but apparently it's not.
Huh. I guess, yeah. I mean, shows. I mean, I don't. What the fuck do I know? My go-to whenever we have this kind of thing is the first time I saw Blink 182, which I think I've mentioned before on here. Where I was like, oh, these guys are going nowhere. So what do I know?
Yeah, I could see pushback against Donnie Darko. Donnie Darko is one of those movies that people like to watch and then feel really smart about afterwards.
Yeah.
Like Inception, like people like to talk about how that's their favorite movie because it makes them feel smart. And I could see like, yeah, I know, it's so fucking dumb. It looks cool for like a little bit, but then you're like, all right, now why am I still watching it?
Well, and speaking of A24 music, yeah. 2.5 hours of like, oh god, never ends. I can't even hear anybody.
But I mean, as long as you're not being like that about Donnie Darko, maybe that's part of the pushback is the people that get really like personally goofy about Donnie Darko or something. I don't know. Also, the sequel to that movie, S. Darko, is like a source of pure anger from the directors, the director of the original Donnie Darko. Like his thing is like, no, I did not direct that movie. No, I don't like that movie. I hate that movie. I will never like that movie. I won't even watch that movie. Fuck that movie. Fuck you for asking me about that movie. That's Donnie Darko director in response to anything about S. Darko.
S. Darko I have not seen.
I rented S. Darko from a pizza delivery restaurant / DVD rental store back in the day. It was because the DVD rental store next door to the pizza place went out of business, and they were like, oh, we'll buy your DVDs though. It was terrible.
That's crazy. Yeah. It was really bad.
It was so bad.
What's his Nards isn't in it, right?
No one's Nards is in it. It is completely Nardless.
S. Darko Nardless.
Yeah, Nardless S. Darko.
Whoa.
Okay. Let's see. Anything that we should talk about before we talk about how they can get in touch with us and tell them to go away?
Was there a motherfucking asshole in this movie?
God, was there?
That's a tough question.
Oh, yeah, there totally was a motherfucking asshole, and he said things like, pretty little nursey.
Yeah, that's who I'm going with.
Yeah.
The rape bear.
Yeah. Yeah, the guy that really likes to have sex with his best mate's exes or whatever.
So,
And oh,
surprise, surprise, surprise! In a movie conceived, written, and directed, and starring almost entirely women, the motherfucking asshole is a big dude,
yeah, a big sweaty dude.
and
And
I
in one
totally
scene,
am okay with that.
yeah. Yeah, like as soon as this movie veers off into guys are around, everything gets worse.
Yeah, that's right.
It's fucking amazing. All right, so go out and leave us a rating and review on any podcatcher that you use that does that, especially if you want to find us on Apple. That's a really good one. We have 2 ratings on there. We're at a 5 out of 5. Maybe don't ruin that, but just leave us a cool review about why we're a 5 out of 5. And
also, if you're in Sweden,
yeah,
please tell your friends about our show, because we want to break the top 100 of horror
yeah.
review podcast. I think we got as close as 197. I think was that the closest we got?
I have not been checking that one. Is that Chartable or something?
I think it's Chartable. Yeah, we're like
Yeah.
and I look at the other podcasts, and it's like podcasts that are like, "Hi, this is my horror podcast. I'm going to talk about scary stuff." And I'm like, why is that rating better than ours?
Maybe we should review like a few Swedish horror movies.
Ooh, get in with the Swedes.
Yeah, Norm Fnirgnargs.
Oh, Florgendorf.
And we just lost our one Swedish fan.
Oh my god.
Thank you, one Swede.
Please get in touch with us, folks, and let us know what you think about the show. Let us know what you'd like to hear us talk about, and we will most likely get to it, unless we've already covered it or it's a Serbian film.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, you can reach out to us on Twitter and Instagram at Loathsome Pod, on Facebook at Loathsome Podcast, or email us at loathsomethings@gmail.com. Or you could probably talk to us on the r-horror Reddit, where we interact with people under the handle Loathsome Things. Mostly just a pure attempt to try to guide people to the podcast.
Yeah, which mostly just results in people talking about how they hate woke movies.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Basically, the theme that I got from interacting with Reddit was no one should care whether or not people of color or females are the director. Don't even think about it.
That's not important. The important thing is what? That it's horror-y.
Yeah, on its own merit, its own artistic merit. Don't muddy the water, my dude. Just, I don't know, keep watching Annabelle movies.
Noted.
Yeah. So go do that. Go find us. Tell us things. Tell us what we got wrong. Tell us what we got right. Tell us what we can do better about next time.
Yes.
And come back in 2 weeks when we review another movie.
We review another movie. Thanks for listening. And as always, sorry, I'm such an idiot. I don't even want to say it. I don't even want to say it this time.
May God never waste your pain.